Yo, let's go, and welcome to the video. I'm going to cover the first couple bosses in Ulduar, the first one being Flame Leviathan. This one's not going to count towards your parse at all. You don't need to stress out about getting tossed up to the top of the boss, but if you do, the turrets act like totems or like the mirror images in the new Titan Rune dungeons. They don't get hit by AoE, so as you see, Starfall's on cooldown, but it's not hitting any of the turrets at all, not even the one that I'm stood next to. Same thing with Typhoon. Typhoon will not hit all the turrets if you use Typhoon. So that's really the only thing I wanted to mention about Flame Leviathan. Doesn't count towards the parse. So pick whatever vehicle you want to have the most fun in. Personally, I like being the Demolisher driver. Now on to the second boss. Ignis, the Furnace Master, I think. I can't see the rest of his name. Ignis, boss number 2. So you can pre-pop a potion on this fight and kind of use your instant cast, put the dots up, get Starfall rolling while the tank positions Ignis near the water. This is the spot that he gets tanked for us, and he doesn't have to get moved at all. I can just stand right here and continue to pump for the entire fight. The main mechanic is the flame jets. So it says stop casting. Usually you can finish off your Starfire cast, your Wrath cast, and then maybe if there's enough time you could pop another Wrath cast off before the end of the boss's cast. And then once you get knocked up into the air, that's when I use my Moonfire, Insect Swarm, and Typhoon if I have Typhoon. Eventually though, we should have 4-piece tier 8, and when we get knocked up, hopefully we have an instant Starfire cast that we can use while we're knocked up in the air for a little bit of extra damage. Iron constructs die really easily. I haven't had to kill any of those, but if you're assigned to shattering the constructs, then that's taking your DPS away from the boss. That damage will count, but that mob doesn't have any of the debuffs or anything on it, so it's not going to be like a full damaged Starfire if you do hit it. So Alkan Frenzy is procced right here. It does proc off of a couple of things from this boss, like Flame Jets is what I've noticed the most. But for the most part, you should be able to stand in the same spot, pump on the boss, use a couple instants every time you get knocked up, and be good to go. If you do get into the slag pot on the stomach, it stops your DPS for a couple of seconds, even though you can continue to cast while you're in the pot. And then once you get tossed back out, you have a 10-second haste buff, which I would just spam Starfires with. The last time I checked, the top parse on this did not have the slag pot like buff as part of their DPS and then their buffs for the fight, so I don't think that's going to be like mandatory. It probably kind of evens out your damage because there is that little gap where you can't cast as soon as you go in. I would prefer to not get it myself and just be able to stand still and pump. So far, as of the 30th of January, the highest DPS for this fight was 8460 DPS from Drafter Druid. And as you can see here, they didn't get the slag pot debuff, and they did get a resistor 2 on the flame jet, so they didn't get knocked up and have to use their instant cast, which is going to slow your DPS down slightly. Having a couple resist on the flame jets is another thing that is going to help you out. Boss number 3 is Razorscale. These first couple of waves of mobs do not count towards your parse. Your parse time starts when the boss lands after the 4 turrets are activated. So for this, I like to watch the timer for turret number 4, and once it gets down to 45 seconds, I stop doing damage. I let the rest of the raid handle all the rest of the adds. I don't want the stuff for my trinkets, my cloak enchant since I'm a tailor. I don't want any of those things to proc on the trash that's not going to matter. I want them to line up right when the boss comes down, and I know everything's going to be popped right off at the start of the fight with my Starfall. So I'm going to skip ahead to when the boss lands. So the boss is down now. The 4 turrets have been activated. I try to stand on like the back left foot, almost like it's XT, and pump all the way into the 50% mark where it's going to do a wing buffet, knock everybody back. But there's no threat on this. You don't need to worry about ripping off of your tank or anything like that. So it's really nice to just be able to open up full throttle. If you don't meet this 50% health DPS check, then you're not going to have a good parse, and it's just going to take way longer because you're having to do a second ad phase. So there, I was trying to be in the middle so that when I got knocked back, I could use my nitro boost, run back into the middle, because our tank is just going to slowly and very lightly move the boss around the circle that's on the ground. I've seen a couple of things that could proc Alkin Frenzy on this fight, like that blue glowy stuff on the ground I think has a chance to proc it, but I haven't really gotten Alkin Frenzy to proc on this fight from something that I could see in the logs. So Alkin Frenzy maybe not be worth. It procced right there at the end of this fight. I don't know what it was that procced it. Yeah, for the most part, as long as you can stand there in the middle and pump and get the boss to not have a second ad phase, you're good to go. So the highest DPS for this fight so far is 9,600 DPS. As you can see, the damage done to the Darkruined Guardians, Watchers, and Sentinels are excluded from the DPS here. And if you look up on the top of your page for the fight, all of that purple part is the phase 1, and none of that damage done is going to count on your parse. So for the kill time though, it does have everything. It shows 3:17, but really the fight started at 2 minutes and ended at 3:17, so it was a 1:17 fight that counts towards your parse. So it's just enough time to get 2 starfalls in, and it shows 3 starfalls, so they used 1 starfall in phase 1, and then if you view the unfiltered damage, you can see all the extra damage that was done with starfall to the Guardians and Watchers that just gets taken out. There we go, let me move it down. Cool. On to the 4th boss and the last of the Siege of Ulduar bosses is XT Deconstructor. So the strategy most people like to use is everybody stacks on the left foot, and then if you get one of the 2 debuffs, you either go left or to the right to get out of the stack of everybody. So if you have multiple of those, or even just one, that could just be enough to lower your uptime on the boss and reduce your overall DPS for the fight. So if you're having lucky RNG and you don't get any of those debuffs and you don't have to move, you can stand and pump, that's really going to help. One interesting thing with this fight, all of the damage from the little ads counts towards your parse. So if you're not assigned to help damage them, then that could hurt you, as I'll show you in the logs at the end of the fight from the top parse, how much damage they had to those ads. Most of the damage is on the heart as well. So if you're doing normal mode, which is all I've done so far, if you're able to pump really hard on the heart before you have to stop doing DPS, then that'll help your normal mode parse. And since I haven't done hard mode yet, I'll have to make another video on that when the guild I'm in gets to do the hard mode. But I think everybody right now, when this video gets released, is going to be just doing normal mode. Every once in a while, those ads from the sides do get kind of close and you can turn around, throw a Typhoon. Another thing is having Starfall for if the ads get really close. You can have Starfall hitting the heart and some of the bots as they're coming in and get some really good splash damage from your Starfall. So here I've got the boss, a couple of the big ads with Starfall, and there's some ads behind me walking in too. I'm able to get a decent Starfall off using a lot of the ads that are nearby. This is a pretty fun fight doing all the extra damage on the heart. You might have to ask your raid lead if you can try to get all the AoE damage on the ads as they run in. Let the mobs get as close as they can to the boss, and then use your Typhoon, maybe even Hurricane on the ads to try to get some extra damage. So here is the top DPS for XT as a Boomy. It's 12,188 DPS. So if I hover over Starfire, 2/3 of the Starfire damage was on the heart. So really all cooldowns that you have, like your potion in combat, your starfall, hyper speed, they should all be used on the heart to try to maximize the DPS with that damage boost. As you can see with their starfall, they got a lot of damage done to the ads. They got more damage on the ads actually than they did on the heart with the starfall. So treants, I wonder if you pop the trees on the heart, if they do extra damage. I just went and checked my logs from this week and I did get 100 plus K damage done to the heart with my one cast of Force of Nature. So another GCD to pop as soon as you know the heart's going to come out, pop your trees to do some extra damage. And the last thing I wanted to point out from this top DPS was their one cast of Typhoon, but it did 38.4K damage. So for one GCD, it looks like it's going to end up, depending on how many mobs it hits, it's going to do about the same amount as one Starfire crit onto the heart. So if the heart is down, but the ads are still coming in, you can turn around, use your Typhoon. So that's it for the first 4 bosses. I'll get on to these later bosses here in the heart of Ulduar in another video. Thanks for watching.